Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me this evening is a phenomenal woman that I've actually had the pleasure of knowing for quite some time. We go back 40 plus years, went to elementary school together back in Chicago. She is a mom, she is a wife, but most importantly, she's a woman of God, and she's taking time out of her very busy schedule to hang out with us for a little while this evening to share a bit of her journey, a bit of her story with the hopes of inspiring and encouraging and uplifting others as only she can. Understanding that we all deal with challenges and storms in life, and we could all use a bit of encouragement in that regard. So it is my privilege and honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you an old dear friend, classmate from way back when, back in the day from when we were kids, Miss Anjie Gaston-Lenoir. Anjie, thank you so much for being on the show.
Woo, yay! Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Anjie, before we jump into our segments this evening, I do want to give you an opportunity to give a brief overview of yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Kind of give our audience a snippet of who is Anjie Gaston-Lenoir.
Let's see, who am I? First and foremost, I am a child of the Most High. I lack nothing thanks to Him. He is my provider, my keeper, my everything. Second of all, I am daughter of Barbara, granddaughter of Phyllis, and my daddy's name is Larnell. I got a lot of siblings and a lot of cousins. Let's see, went to school. I went to school. My main schools that I claim are Beasley Academic Center for elementary school and Hyde Park Career Academy for high school.
All right. And for
What was
those
the
of you who
rest of the
don't know,
question?
no, I was just saying. No, I was just saying you just kind of giving us a little backdrop of where you're from and everything. And I was just going to say for those of us, for those who are tuning in that don't understand, Beasley was a big deal back in the day when Angie and I were in elementary school, and Hyde Park, of course, is a very well known high school on the south side of Chicago. So we represent Chicago this evening. Where is you kind of consider this as an interview. It's also a miniature reunion this evening. So again, known Angie for a very long time. Haven't had a chance to hear her voice and see her face in quite a while. So I know she's got a great, powerful story to share this evening. And I'm excited to reconnect with her and have her to be on the show and share as she's going to do this evening. So I know we're all going to be blessed as a result of it. So again, thank you, Angie, for being a part of this. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to jump right in. So, Angie, as is the case with anybody that I bring on the show, and I say this every time, when we talk about our journeys and we reflect back on it all, I love to take that opportunity to reflect on where it all begins, because I really do believe that a lot of the encounters that we have, whether it's the individuals that we meet or the experiences that we go through, good, bad, or otherwise, that there's a purpose in all of that. It's not something that happened by accident or by chance, but as you get older, even though it may not make sense at the time that it's going on, especially when you're kids, when you get older, you begin to connect those dots, you begin to piece it all together, and it begins to transition into what is ultimately the purpose that God created us to be, to the thing that He wanted us to do, to not only be blessed, but to be a blessing to other people. And so, with that said, if you would take us back to the beginnings for you, share with us what was it like for you growing up, fond memories that you have about growing up, as well as if there's any challenges that come to mind, you can share that as well. Kind of give us the backdrop of where your story begins.
Okay, let me see. Well, I'm kind of like a middle child. My father had two before he got with mommy. But I'm my mom's firstborn, so I'm also the oldest. It's kind of complicated. I grew up on the southeast side of Chicago, ooh, Chicago South Side, um, and 93rd and Phillips to be exact. We grew up in a very multicultural, multi ethnic neighborhood, and I am very thankful for that experience. We could actually go to our friends' house, different friends' houses we could visit throughout the week or each weekend, and have different cuisine from different countries, and didn't even realize how fortunate we were. We had neighbors from Mexico, we had Caucasian neighbors, we had neighbors from Asia. It was so much fun. We learned a lot. Let's see. My best friend when I was in kindergarten was the one from Mexico. And yo hablo un poquito de español because of that. I speak a teeny little bit Spanish, and I try to practice it. I wish I could practice a lot more, but yeah. Um, let's see. Oh, the little neighborhood school before I started going to Beasley. I actually walked to school. It was down the street from our house. I attended that school from kindergarten to second grade. It was actually called Buckingham. That school, no, the building's there, but the school is no longer functioning. Um, one moment, be right back. Why not? It's beautiful.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, our guest, Miss Anjie Gaston-Lenoir, is with us tonight. She's just making some adjustments real quick, and we'll continue her story with us. And as she shared, growing up in Chicago is an awesome experience, and I'm already loving the diversity that she's speaking to. So Angie's back with us. Go ahead, Angie.
Okay, so yeah, I'm back. Um, this is interesting. I've never really actually talked about all of this, so I'm trying to see how to be able to properly order it. Um, so yeah, I went to Buckingham, and then I went to Beasley. But oh yeah, before I went to Beasley, I actually went on my very first camping experience when I was like second going into third grade, and that's where I actually one of our classmates that wound up going to Beasley with me. His name was he has a different name now. I really don't want to say his original name because his name now is Shahid. I don't want to say the original name because he might not like that name anymore. But we actually went to the same summer camp, and that summer camp experience was for a 1 week, and it was um, a very good experience. It allowed me to be able to learn who I was and how much I was capable of doing without my parents being around. It really
Hmm.
grew me up, and I was really thankful for that entire experience. And Shahid and I, we both wound up going to Beasley after that, and we were like, "Oh, hey, I saw you at Camp Fair. It's the same school. That's so cool." So that was really nice. And my cousin went to the same school as I went to. My sister actually wound up coming to the same school that was Beasley. My younger sister, she's 5 years younger than myself, and we were bused in on the school bus. Something that a lot of kids wound up doing at Beasley Academic Center. That school was really interesting. It was, man, it was very enriching.
Hmm.
My experience at Beasley, I didn't realize how fortunate we were to be able to experience going to school. But our teachers were awesome. They were top tier in what they were doing. They had to be pretty strong. I don't know if they realized what they're getting into. We were across the street from the projects. I didn't
Hmm.
we started like, where are they taking us? It was fine. We had no problems ever. Let's see. I'm not sure what else to talk about.
No, no, what you shared has been great so far. Again, I appreciate you kind of taking us, back down memory lane, so to speak. And to my listeners, again, if you're not from Chicago, if you didn't grow up specifically South Side Chicago, what Angie has shared just in this brief overview of her, the beginning of her journey growing up. It's not just a random thing about the neighborhood that she lived in. It's not just a random thing about the elementary school that she attended, because again, for those of you who are not familiar with what that scenario was like back then, and we're talking about in the 80s, early 80s, and in some instances, depending upon when you started school at Beasley, perhaps late, the latter part of the 70s. But the big deal was at that particular point in time, Beasley Academic Center was kind of a new phenomenon, if you will. There weren't schools like that in existence, and definitely not in the inner city of Chicago, South Side. It was a magnet school. You had to test to get into the school. As she said, many of us were bused to the school, which is crazy, because usually when you think about busing, a lot of times, particularly when it comes to African American youth, you're thinking about them being bused to a white school. But Beasley was predominantly black school, and you actually had white kids being bused to to the school as well. As she stated, a diversity of teachers, top tier teachers. You had an opportunity to be taught by you know male and female teachers who looked like you. It was just a very good family environment, and those of us who had the opportunity to go through that academic setting went on to do great things. Were highly successful in high school, college, and many of us today are just doing awesome, phenomenal things in our respective fields. So it was very much a big deal. And as she said, it was right across the street from what used to be at the time Robert Taylor homes. These high rise projects, one of the largest housing projects in the country at the time, and one of the most dangerous housing projects in the country at the time. But yet, here we were in this phenomenal school, and again, everybody was just kind of one big happy family, so to speak. And it was just a very unique and powerful experience that I totally relate to you, Angie, in saying that we didn't fully appreciate what that really meant until it was years later that really it really sank in and said, you know what, I was very fortunate to be in that setting. So for my listeners, please understand that this wasn't just an ordinary elementary school. And even as Angie described her neighborhood being very multicultural, that in itself is very unique as well, because while Chicago is a very multicultural city, it has also been well known as being a very segregated city. So everybody is kind of in their own section of town. And it was like that back then. And it's even a lot like that even today. But there were neighborhoods like Angie's that she grew up in, where she did have the opportunity to be around a multitude of different people from various backgrounds. And as she stated, that provides a wealth of not only experience and learning about people's cultures and things of that nature, but you carry that forward in your appreciation for, whether it's, learning about new foods, learning about, ways of life and just things of that nature. So it in its own way, it broadens your horizons and it opens your mind up to a multitude of things that can be very influential and beneficial to you as you move forward into your adult years. So I appreciate you sharing that, Angie, because I don't want to dismiss or minimize at all what growing up in a setting like that is like. So thank you for sharing that. So
All right, welcome.
yes, yes. So with that said, Angie, obviously you clearly had a phenomenal, upbringing, and of course we always wish that someday we'll be grown and do what we want to do, and we get to that adulthood stage, and there's some things that we get to experience that are very enjoyable, great things that we always dreamed of doing. But then along with that, of course, comes some challenges and some storms, and every now and then those challenges or those storms are heavy in a way that hits us a little bit different. Um, we sometimes find ourselves in a situation where we're facing an uphill battle with something that we may not see a way out. We don't know how we're going to overcome that situation. It's just us staring down the barrel of this storm of life and feeling helpless, feeling hopeless, maybe just not knowing how did I get here and how I'm going to get out of it. So, with that said, if you would, share with us a time that you felt like that you were facing a challenge in life that you didn't know how you were going to overcome this. You didn't know how you were going to get out of it. But by the grace of God, you were able to withstand and endure that challenging time in life, and ultimately had an opportunity to see some light at the end of the tunnel. So if you would kind of share with us what that experience was like for you and what was ultimately the turning point in that situation.
Man, which one do you want me to pick? So let me go here. So yeah, like I said, I went to Beasley and I went to Hyde Park, but there's more. I went to Finger, Finger High School
Hmm.
for the very last half of my senior year, the second half of my senior year, and that was the worst. That was when 21 Jump Street was out. They thought I was a narc. Because I wound up going to that school because we relocated. Let me tell you, we relocated because I grew up in a two parent home, but eventually things kind of went sideways, and mommy and daddy didn't stay together. So when mommy and daddy didn't stay together, I sought refuge in a boy that I shouldn't have been seeing. Long story short, I have four children by this man. That's the short story. Um, I really wish that if I could do it over again, I love my children. They are gorgeous. They are smart. Um, but the guy that I had my children with, he was fine, but there were some things going on with him that I didn't realize that I should have been able to spot. But yeah, even though I had four children, I thought I was gonna get married. Nobody wants to have children out of wedlock, and nobody wants to really be a single mom. So for anybody to look at a young lady and think that that's something that she was just being fast or whatever, that is not always the case at all. That was not my case. Like I said, I thought we were gonna get married, but we didn't. And he moved away to Iowa because his mom moved to Iowa, but I still stayed in Chicago. I wound up raising my four children by myself. It was me and some of my family members, of course. We made it, and definitely God. God was at the was totally steering the car. You say Jesus take the wheel, that is an understatement. He took the wheel, pushed the gas, pushed the brake necessary. I
Hmm.
just was on autopilot trying to make it. So after I graduated high school, I went to Chicago State University. Surprisingly, that's the school that I went to and got my college education from, and I had my kids in tow. And I worked at the school, and I worked around town in different places. I even worked for, what do you call it? When it was time to vote,
Oh,
I
okay.
was one of the judges when it was time to
Hmm.
vote. I forgot exactly what you call it because that was whew, so long ago. Um, I would register the people when they came in or see if their name was in the book and then give them the voter's
Yeah.
card and let them go in the booth and the pen and all that stuff. Um, my auntie told me that I should do that. I loved doing that. I thought I wanted to go into politics, but when I found out what was really entailed, what really went with that, I was like, I'm not doing politics. That's not me. So I actually wound up going to Chicago State. And kids in tow, the kids were able to fortunately go to the child care center that was on campus. That was a huge blessing. And I actually even took them to some of the basketball games and some of the events that we would have on campus. I did not care that everybody else might not have had kids. I took mine right with me, and we were all involved. We saw the Greek shows and everything. And they were so excited about all of that stuff, and it was really cool. Um, but yeah, I went to the school originally do to go to be a doctor. So I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I did 2 years of pre med, surprisingly. Um, but once I realized how long it was going to take for me to finish trying to be a doctor, going to school, and realized I had the children and needed to work and stuff too, I was like, I need a different route because this was not going to work. So I actually wound up switching my major in my junior year, and I did recreation management. Before I can finish at Chicago State University, I had to spend 6 months in Florida without my children, and that wrecked me almost. Once I got off the plane, well, I had to arrange for my children to go with the paternal side of the family. That wasn't easy. I had never been without them. They had never been without me.
Mm.
Um, I actually broke out in hives because I was so messed up about the whole situation. And it took me like 3 days after relocating to Florida to try to do my internship. Said they told me you have to do your internship before you can graduate. I'm like, I got kids. I can't go to no whole another place to try to do an internship. But they say you have to in order to be able to complete. I said, oh God. Well, God worked it out. I got there. I actually wound up being in a couple of management positions. I worked in the office and actually worked as one of the drivers to take a. We used to have a program where some of the international students would come to America and they would work at the different resorts down in Florida. So I was
Mm.
responsible for taking several of the students to the different locations where they had to work for the day, and then I had to go pick them up as well. That was after being there for just a little while. They was like, "This girl likes to be in charge of stuff, so we don't get her to do this." I was like, "Okay, I don't really like to be in charge, but okay, let's go with it." So I guess because I was a big sister, my big sister skills kicked in, and they saw it, and it worked out for me. I liked what I did. I actually worked for it was called Resort Recreation and Tourism Management.
Mm.
So that was the field that I was in. I love it. I still love it to this day. I do. I'm an activist. I'm an Angela Davis enthusiast. I have a picture of me. I put it online one time. I was a baby in a crib. Had to be less than two. I had to be maybe two or less than two. But yeah, I got a side by side picture of me and Miss Davis. Yeah, she's my hero. Black Panther Party. I love them. I love the original work that they were about, trying to get the community up and started and running and doing things for themselves, so they didn't need to excuse that. That's my husband's ringtone. It wakes him up in the morning. But yeah, so yeah, life is pretty exciting around work. Currently, we're doing truck driving, so that's how come I said I was going to do the photo instead of trying to do the live thing because it's kind of hard because we're rolling right now. We're actually coming all the way from North Dakota, going down to
Oh,
Alabama.
okay. Okay. Wow. Well, first off, let me tell you that I definitely appreciate your transparency and sharing, this part of your journey. I mean, I can't imagine what it must have been like being a single mom, of not of just one child, but of four children. But then at the same time saying, you know what, it would have been very easy. Let me put it like this: it would have been very easy for you to just kind of embrace this mindset of, well, this is the end of the life for me. It's just me and these four kids, and I might as well just come to grips that I'm not going to be able to accomplish or achieve anything. But you didn't take that stand. You said, you know what, I'm a mom, I have this responsibility of my children who I love dearly, and I'm going to go ahead and not only make something of myself, but to do it for the purposes of making sure that they can have a better life. And I think that part of your story, just right there, is very phenomenal and very much encouraging, because as we all know, there's a lot of single moms out here struggling, don't have the support service, don't have the network around them, that circle of people who care about them. That's why I loved when you made mention about still having some family that pitched in and kicked in to kind of help you to fill some of those gaps that you're trying to do. And and kudos to Chicago State for you to being blessed to be able to go get your degree, but then be at a place where they had services that could tend to your kids while you're trying to do your thing in class and things of that nature. So I mean, all of that is just absolutely phenomenal, and it shows that even in the midst of adversity, even when it looks like on paper that you're supposed to be written off, there's no hope for you or anything of that nature, you are living proof that when God is involved, when you are in a relationship with Him, He can take what looks like an impossible situation and He can make that thing work out just fine. So here you are, you got your education like you needed to do. You've had a phenomenal career. Your children are thriving in life, and you are exploring, all different facets of career and, as you said, activism. So you're not just making it about chasing a paycheck or anything like that. You're actually looking out for the lives and the stability of other people, saying, that I want better, not just for me, but I want better for others. So to me, that is very much admirable, and I'm glad you shared that, because again, we're going to have some listeners that are tuning in who they need to hear this. They need to know that it's not the end of their story just because there was a bump in the road or things didn't pan out the way that you hoped that they would pan out. There's still always that opportunity for that comeback, for that bounce back, and so I'm thankful to hear that God's hand has been guiding you and your family along the way, and you're doing your thing. So that's very much to be highlighted, and I appreciate you sharing that. Um, so so Angie, obviously you've shared some very heavy stuff, single motherhood and the like, but and we know that sometimes those storms in life can be heavy like that, and sometimes the storms in life could just be the day-to-day nuances of life just lifing. So with that said, what I'm interested in knowing from you is, when you do find yourself facing challenging times, whether it's the big stuff or whether it is just a minor nuance of day-to-day life, what is it that you personally like to do, that routine, that regiment that you like to follow, that kind of works best for you as you process through challenging and difficult times?
Let's see. I don't really have well, kind of I do. Every morning, uh, or read the devotion.
So you're breaking up a little bit. I, I think I heard you say that in the morning you like to do your devotions.
In church. It's virtual. I still go that I attend. It's in the Roseland area,
Okay.
uh, where those great donuts exist. And they used to have Pepe's and we stopped naming the restaurants. But yeah, Roseland used to be popping. It was awesome. I, yeah, I kind of grew up in that area too, not only on the southeast side of Chicago, but the Roseland area as
Hmm.
well. And there, uh, there was a lot of stuff going on there too that you can really be able to learn from and have. I don't really know how to be able to explain it. You're so enriched by the experiences that you were able to partake in when you grew up in where I grew up and went to church also. in that area, in Roseland area. There used to be a church that was in a movie, an old movie theater. It's torn. The building's torn down now. That's where we first started going to church. Um, and that church actually used to hold revivals and things like that. And in that church also, um, all kinds of people. I think that was like seemed to me like the first mega church I ever knew that existed. It was really big. And you had people from goody two shoes to prostitutes coming to their church, and
Mm.
everybody got ministered to. There was no um, person that couldn't come in, and it was awesome. That was an awesome experience. But I used to sing. But after we went to that was when I was younger. Let's see, we stopped. Ooh, 8 years old. That was a big transitional time for me because that's around the time when I stopped going to that church and started going to our church that I go to now, that I mostly grew up in, which is Bethel House of Prayer. The first church name was Miracle Life Temple. But surprisingly, that church, both of the churches are kind of like they were right around the corner from each other. Surprising. And I used to sing in the choir, and my choir director used to make me sing solos because my mama used to sing solos, so they thought I could sing.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could sing a little bit back then.
Said just a little bit, huh?
But
Well,
my
I think
my praying and doing daily bread, and my go-to is music is my therapy. Gospel music is my therapy, and listening to they are my favorite.
okay, okay. Well, I mean that's definitely good. What what you're as you're describing your routine, your regimen, if you will, because what I like about what you said is you didn't just lock in on when I'm going through a difficult time, then I automatically jump to this or that or the other. Your approach is more broad than that, and what I mean by that is when you get into your devotion, when you get into your word, when you take the time to pray, these are things that are daily habits that you want to formulate. And I'm just saying this also to again to our listeners. If you don't currently have a routine for dealing with challenging times in life, part of that process is to have a thing that you do every day to stay grounded, to stay ready and prepared, because you don't necessarily know when that storm is going to hit. There's no way to predict that. You don't necessarily know what level of intensity that storm is going to carry. But there are things that you can do in advance of those moments, because even though it's a matter of not if, but when that storm does hit, you're not completely, unarmed, if you will. That's what, when we talk about God's word and we talk about putting on that full armor of God, that's what that process looks like. Staying prayed
Suited
up,
and
staying
booted.
ready, suited and booted, staying ready
Hmm.
to go. So when it does hit you, while it may jar you a little bit, where it may knock you a little bit to the side, it doesn't take you out. And that's the big thing right there. So as you were sharing, Angie, about taking these day-to-day things that clearly you're doing on a regular basis, and then also bringing in how music, particularly gospel music, is healing and soothing for you to again another opportunity, another pathway for you to stay armored up, to stay ready, to stay prepared for the fight, because we are all in a spiritual warfare that we're dealing with, and the enemy is always looking for ways to tap into your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses, catch you slipping, catch you with your guard down. And so you got to be ready, you got to be prepared, you got to be covered. And so everything that Angie is sharing are examples of how to do that. So for my listeners, if you don't have currently a way to handle and process those challenging times, big or small scenarios, take some of these nuggets that she's dropping, because these are things that you could apply right now, and incorporate in your life to better prepare you again, for those storms of life that are going to come. Again, not an if, but a when. They're going to happen. But are you going to be prepared to fight that fight when that time comes? And are you also aware of who you need to rely upon to have the strength, the courage, and the fortitude to be able to handle that battle? Because God doesn't expect us to take on all of this weight all by ourselves. He's there for us to rely upon, to lean into, to depend upon. And so these are all things that Angie is speaking to. So so Angie, if you had the opportunity, as you think back on life and all your ups and downs and the things that you've experienced, if you had a chance to sit across from the younger Angie, the Angie that I last saw many years back, and you could pour into her, share with her, impart in her some words of wisdom, some words of encouragement that you think would have been valuable for the younger Angie to know to better navigate life, or just take into consideration those who are tuning in that might be struggling with how to deal with adversity and challenges in life. Or maybe there might be a single mom that's tuning in and she's struggling. She doesn't know that she has an opportunity to have her comeback moment. That there is still more to her life than just being a mom, but that God has bigger and better things for her. What would be your words of advisement to our listeners as well as to the younger Angie? What would you say?
There was something that I didn't speak on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Lord, I'm going to tell. While I was going to Chicago State University, this is something that I would tell the younger me. If I could sit across from her, look her square in the face, dead in the eyes, do not settle.
Mm.
Do not rush into trying to be with anyone. Make sure they are worthy first. Take care of you first and foremost. Make sure you know what you like and what you don't like and what you're going to put up with, what you're not going to put up with. What I did was after I realized that it wasn't going to work with my children's father, I'm like, I got 4 kids. There's no way I could possibly raise these kids by myself. I believe I'm probably going to need a partner to be able to do this. And I thought that I knew someone just because we had history from high school. But comes to find out, I didn't really know that person at all. Um,
Mm.
it was someone who I went to school with, and he was a basketball player. He was on the basketball team when we were going to high school. Mind you, we were already done with high school. So what I did was we started dating, and he seemed like the pretty cool guy to be able to allow around my children and try to be able to make something relationship, you know, and see if it can go further, whatever, see where we'll go with it. But what I didn't know is that we only dated for 9 months. Um, almost at the end of that ninth month, he snapped on me. I did not see it coming. I didn't realize it was going to happen. There might have been some small cues that I maybe ignored, but long story short, this young man put his hands on me. He was way bigger than I was. I considered him like a big protector. He was so tall. He was a big guy. Unfortunately, he had some personal issues going on within himself that I didn't know how deep it was. He put his hands on me, and long story short, I almost died at his hands. Um,
Mm.
he beat me to the point where I was unconscious. Uh, my children were there. He actually put them in the room to try to keep them from being around. Because I had 3 boys and one girl. My girl is the youngest. She was only 2 at the time. But my boys, they were not big. They was little, but they still. where they thought they was their mommy's protector. But he put them in the room and just was wearing me out. I had no way. I didn't see it coming. He coming from the back. I was totally shocked by it. But yeah, he basically left me for dead. And if it wasn't for his friend coming to the scene and seeing what occurred, I probably would have been expired by now. But God,
Mm.
um, He kept me through it all. I actually, like I said, I used to sing in church, and I actually wound up not being able to talk for almost a whole month because they had to get an emergency tracheotomy because some of the bruising that I had, my face was so disfigured, they didn't know if I was gonna make it. And the bruising, I had a bruise that was enlarging by the moment inside of my neck that was cutting off my airway, which caused them to um, the paramedics wound up coming. His brother and his friend came. He called them, and I went to University of Chicago Hospital. That's how come I'm still here. The bruise that was inside of my neck was getting so large and so fast. Like I said, they had to give me emergency tracheotomy. I had a trach for a while, and I couldn't even talk for almost a whole month, let alone sing. But now I can talk, I can sing, I could do everything that I had before. The surgeon who actually reconstructed my face, she did an amazing job. Um, you wouldn't really know to look at me what I have been through, but I almost didn't make it. And young ladies, let me tell you, do not, do not. If he is not showing that he loves you and cares about you on a consistent basis, like I just said, don't settle and get to know Mr. Man before you try to say that y'all even in a relationship. Um, that's basically, long story short, that's it in a nutshell. But I'm still here. I'm grateful to God, and I told myself a long time ago I was determined not to be a statistic. So here we are.
Wow. Again, thank you for your transparency. This was an ideal moment for you to share that part of your journey as you were offering up those words of encouragement and words of inspiration because like you stated, and it's very easy. I can see that it's very easy that again as a single mom, especially like I said with the amount of kids that you had, feeling like I need some help, and that's a natural thing to want to not only to have the help and the support, but of course the companionship. I want all of that in spite of having 4 children. So you weren't asking for anything that was out of the norm, but as you stated, and I'm glad that you did, um, no matter what your circumstances are, you don't ever want to put yourself in a position where you are taking low, settling for less, just to say that you have somebody. There have been a lot of women who unfortunately have been in very abusive relationships and marriages, that the signs were there, the cues were there to not be a part of this, to walk away, but it was like I want to, at least I have somebody, or at least this person is providing in some kind of way, but the trade-off is never worth it. And again, testament back to you in relying upon acknowledging the fact that God got you through this. You were in a near death situation, but God said, you know what, your story's not over. um, this is not how this ends. And while it may have been definitely uncomfortable, painful, hurtful. I'm sorry.
That's my grandbaby talking in the background. Sorry about
Oh,
that.
no, that's okay. While it may have been very, traumatizing to go with, to have to go through what you went through, and the surgeries and the recovery period and all of those things, and for it to all happen in front of your children, I can only imagine, what how they were trying to process that as small children. So to see their mom, like you said, the protector of them, not being protected in that moment, being vulnerable, and subjected to such violence. I mean, that's just a horrific thing to even imagine. So, thanks, and all thanks and glory to God that He saw fit that even in the midst of what seemed to be the ending of your story, He rewrote that. He brought you back stronger. He brought you back better than ever before, and He's allowing you to continue your journey along, which is why your story is so powerful. That ladies, please understand. Just because it may not have started out the way that you thought it would, they didn't play out in the steps that you would have liked to gone through. Don't sell yourself short. You still come from a line of royalty. You are still a queen. You want to conduct yourself accordingly, and you hold any man who calls himself wanting to step to you. Make it known to him that who he's dealing with, and that he just can't say a few little sweet lines and throw a couple of dollars your way, and that's supposed to just make you just give up everything of who you are and totally dismiss the standard of excellence when it comes to being respected and treated like the queen that you were born to be. So I am thankful that you shared that because so many young ladies need to hear that, who are going through similar situations like you did back in that time, being young and being a mom and just trying to figure out life and navigate it all. You have to be careful. You have to guard your space. You have to protect those boundaries and not allow yourself to fall victim to that because, as you said, you didn't even see that situation coming. And this man just snaps off and does what he does, and again, that's just beyond words of what that must have been like. But again, I appreciate your transparency and vulnerability in sharing that. Definitely, our listeners needed to hear that, and for any men who are tuning in, I don't care what you're going through. If you got some issues, some challenges, get the help that you need, but don't take out that frustration, that anger, or whatever it is that's going on inside of you. Don't take that out on somebody that you call
Yes, go
yourself.
go
You
get some
know,
help.
right? Go get some help. You can't tell some young lady that you love her and that you care about her and you love her children and all that, but you putting your hands on her. If you get that angry and you feel like you are ready to go in that direction, the best thing that you could do is just step away and get you some air, get you some help, do whatever you need to do, but don't carry out whatever it is that's going on in your heart or in your mind. So again, just glory to God that you were able to survive that. So, um, Angie,
Let me tell you
this
something right
yes,
quick.
yes, go ahead.
I'm married now, and he had to wait 10 years before I said yes.
Oh,
Waited 10 years. I was like, before we even start talking, I had to feel him out, and we had 10 years
okay, okay.
been married.
Well,
This that I travel with
yeah,
them. I'm administrative assistant for a door trucking company.
gotcha. Well, I mean, considering all you went through, I think you had every right to take it slow and make sure that you were, making the right move in this particular situation. And again, God, I'm sure gave you the guidance and the cues for you to pay attention to, the discernment that you needed to have to know that this was in fact, the best situation for you. That He was in fact your soulmate, and I'm thankful that you are now finally experiencing a loving marriage with a man who sees your worth and values you and was willing to wait to have you. So that speaks volumes to who he is, because he knew when he met Angie that this was someone special, and if it meant he had to wait a little while to get to that end goal, then he was prepared to do that. And so I'm glad that's a happy ending that turned out very well for the both of you, and that's a good thing. That's something to celebrate. So I'm glad that you are finally with that person who, like I said, loves you unconditionally and desires you and loves on you as you should be. So that's great stuff. Great stuff. Um, so Angie, this has been awesome. I'm so thankful that you took the time out to be a part of the show. Your
Thank you.
story has been phenomenal, and I know our listeners may not be aware of this, but you know we experienced, of course, some technical difficulties before we even got on the air, and something that doesn't normally even happen, but it happened, and I share with Angie, you know. You must have a powerful story to tell because the enemy is busy this evening. But at the end of the day, he is not in control. He was not stopping this story from being heard, and so I'm thankful that we both, you know, fought it through and did what we
Oh,
needed to do to make this happen. Because these
yes,
are the kind of
sir.
testimonies that the enemy doesn't like for people to hear. He doesn't want you to have that encouragement. He doesn't want you to.
I just say, the liar and his birthday.
That's
Remember
right.
that.
That's right. The liar in his breath stinks. So I love that. Yeah. The enemy is he's trying. He's trying. He didn't want this to happen. He knew that you were gonna be on the road. He wants to mess with the network. He wants to mess with everything to keep you from telling the story that needs to be told. But guess what? God has the final say, and He's made it happen. Your story has been told. I have been blessed, and my listeners have been blessed. So I'm thankful for that, and all glory to God for doing what He always does is stepping in and right
Hallelujah.
on time, right when it needs to happen. So, the mission has been accomplished. Um,
Hallelujah.
but as is
We overcome
customary,
by the blood of the Lamb and
yes,
the word of our testimony.
there we go, there we go. So, so as is customary here on the Blessings in the Streets podcast, before I let you go, we do want to have an opportunity to celebrate you, to love on you, to lift you up. So, Angie, if you got anything that's going on right now or coming up down the road that you're working on or that you're a part of, we want to know all about that. How people can follow along and keep in touch, or perhaps support some of the things that you're doing. So please do share what does Angie got going on now, or that's coming up that we need to celebrate and acknowledge. What you got going on?
At the moment, I'm just focusing on working right now with my husband. But as soon as God say green light, my cousin and myself, Miss Tarita James, who you already had on your podcast a little while ago, we will
Mm-hmm.
be traveling. I'm speaking this into existence. And we will be sharing our testimony of how good God is and how He, no doubt, brought us through and kept us and is continuously keeping us. And this is the time, or it might be the first time, but it's not going to be the last time you hear this. So, and the creek don't rise.
Well, absolutely. I look forward to that. And I can't think of a better dynamic duo to pair up like that, because even when Tarita was on the show, as you said, we kind of closed out on a similar note where I said, you got some stuff that's still to be done and some work to do, and she acknowledged that, and just like we spoke it into existence when she was on, we speaking it into an existence now the same way with you. I think you both would be powerful women of God, sharing your stories, very much relatable, very much needing to be heard. So yeah, I look forward to it. And while it hasn't actually happened just yet, it's still something to celebrate. And for our listeners, keep Angie in your prayers, that she continues to share her stories on other platforms as God is leading her to do. That she partners up with her cousin Tarita, and they can change the world, change lives in a meaningful and powerful way. Like you said, you're just waiting on God's green light, and when He gives that green light, operating in obedience, and you take those steps, walking it out on faith, and just watch God do magnificent and wonderful things. And I'm expecting that for both of you. But since you're on the show tonight, we specifically talking for your part of it and what you got, what God has for you, He has for you, and I'm looking forward to hearing more of your successes and triumphs and just the great works that God has placed on your heart to do. So. Um, this has been again a phenomenal time. It's been great catching up with you, seeing you. for the first time in many many years, and you're still looking
Many
great. You
years.
sound good. Life is good. So you still got it going on. So and we celebrating that. So
Thank you, bro. To
um
you.
like
Still
so
we
I appreciate it
rise.
so much. Still we rise. That's right. That's right. And to my listeners, if you've enjoyed our broadcast this evening, please do share, please subscribe, please like, please comment, because this is what the Blessings in the Streets podcast is all about. We get on here to encourage, to uplift, to just be raw and transparent, sharing our stories. Not here to impress, not here to wow or or finagle anybody, but just to be keeping it real, just keeping it relatable. Because we all go through our stuff. We all face challenges in life. We all deal with the storms of life, and that's a part of the journey. It's not something you should run from. It's something you should run to. Embrace those moments. The thing that I do want you to ultimately understand, though, is that you don't have to do it by yourself. We have a God who loves
No.
us unconditionally. He wants nothing but the best for us, and so you want to take advantage of that. You want to cling to Him. You want to embrace that relationship with Him. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't currently have a relationship with God, today is a mighty fine day to make that decision. And I promise you, it'll be the best decision that you will ever make. He will never leave you, He will never forsake you. He is right there with you in the highs and the lows and everything in between. He is your Father and He loves you so dearly. We're not telling you something that we heard, we are telling you something that we know from personal experience firsthand.
What up, man?
Angie's sto- Angie's story right there by itself
Uh,
is testament
that's bro.
to the greatness of who he is and how he moves. So
Yes.
always keep that in mind. Absolutely, absolutely. So
That
again, I
was
thank you so much for
noise
being with
over
us this
here.
evening. Remember, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and I thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you keep fighting that good fight. Keep leaning into God for strength, for courage, for the wherewithal to endure these storms, knowing that in the end, no matter how it looks, no matter what other people think, when we're riding with Him, He is undefeated and everything is going to work itself out just as it needs to happen. So, with that said, you take care of yourselves. Have a great rest of the evening, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.
And see,